Hi, friends. Welcome to Great People Interview Series. Today, I have with me Charles, who is the founder and CEO of Legislate. Prior to Legislate, Charles spent 3 years bringing machine learning solution to market at a company which was a spin-out from University of Oxford. So he's a young enthusiast looking at a problem, trying to solve in his own way, and a very interesting interview. I'm sure it's going to be. I'm really looking forward to it because he comes from a background which is not really a lawyer background, but he's created something for people effectively solving a lawyer's problem, a lawyer or on the legal side of the business. We had lots of interviews, and we talked about finance, we talked about innovation, different ideas, but we haven't touched to the legal side of the business as yet. And I'm so glad to welcome Charles here and tell us something, how he's going to help us solving the legal side of the business. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Session. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, what is a Legislate and what it actually does, how you started that?
Yeah, so I guess a bit of background about myself. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not pretending to be a lawyer. At Legislate, we have a legal team, so they take care of the contracts and all things legal. But in my previous role, again, as I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I was doing a lot of contracting, contract creation, contract, negotiation, because I was doing business development. And I found that a lot of the time I was waiting for lawyers to act on small changes, which always tended to be the same. And it's not that, lawyers are slow, it's just that they are time poor. They have so many things to do. And reviewing a simple agreement is usually not at the top of their list of priorities. So I wanted at Legislate to build a solution that me, the business user, could use to create and draft and negotiate those contracts without needing to get lawyers involved at every single step. And that's what we're doing at Legislate. We're a software platform that can be used by non-lawyers. We do have some lawyers who use us, but the majority of our users are not lawyers. And they can use Legislate to create contracts in employment, property, and not just generate a template, but more importantly, tailor a template to their specific requirements, and then sign it all digitally online. And then post-signature, we really make it easy to track the data in your contracts, because that was another challenge I faced, where post-signature, I'd have to repeat myself with the finance team, the customer success team, and any other team that was connected to the contract, because even though they had access to a PDF of a version of the agreement, it's not the most user-friendly way of finding that information. So what we do at Legislate is we make the data in the contract machine readable so that it can be easily shared with the right people, the right teams, and the right systems, whether that's a CRM, a Drive, or whatever other tool that you use. We make it easy to share.
Fantastic. Well, definitely, small businesses need such help because they can't afford the lawyers in the first place to go through any, I would say medium priority contracts or a low priority contracts. For higher priority or high value, I think we all need lawyers for sure. So I think, so is it an app where you have templates that users can use? And are they kind of already, if they don't make much changes, is that something that's already read and approved by a lawyer? Is that what it is?
That's right. So we have a library of agreements that are reviewed by our legal team. We have, sourced the templates from the same legal libraries that law firms would source their contracts from, but we then simplify the language so that it's easier to understand for non-lawyers. and we provide various help and explanations to help users who are reviewing the contract for the first time to understand, why is this clause necessary? What does this clause do? But really what we do is we allow users to tailor the template to their specific requirements, because you might, typically you can purchase templates online, but there's a lot of sections where it might say, if this is your specific situation, then delete this clause. But the problem with deleting or adding clauses is that there's a lot of internal referencing that can be broken if you try to do this by yourself without any, prior background in contracts. And so it can become very messy very quickly. You can end up with, contracts which are not enforceable. And so what we've done is we've replaced that in Legislate by basically asking you a set of questions to help you tailor your contract. And as you're answering the questions, the contract in real time is being built, so that you always end up with a contract which A, is lawyer approved and enforceable, and B, meets your requirements. Because, even if, as a small business, most small businesses kind of share the same concerns and priorities with regards to contracts, they will all have very different contracts, and even within a role, depending on the job title, you'll have different notice periods. Depending on the seniority, you'll have different restrictions. So it might sound simple, but there are a lot of implications when it comes to the contract itself. And we make it very easy to have exactly what you need by answering simple questions.
Wow, that's brilliant. So not only you take a template, but you also go through a questionnaire, which builds a kind of custom template tailored for your individual needs. But having had that questionnaire, if I may have some additional requirement, which is not fulfilled by your standard questions, do I come back to you with that requirement and you still do it, or how does it work?
Yeah, that's right. So we do try and do our best to cover all the different situations that the majority of businesses encounter. But of course, if there's a situation that hasn't been covered in the template, then please get in touch and we will have our legal team review it. It might be a case that actually the specific situation is covered in a different clause, but it's maybe not explicit. So we would then explain why it's covered. But if it's a question that actually we haven't thought of this specific scenario because it's maybe very niche to a specific industry, then we would add it in the form of another question, so that you always end up with the contract that you need.
Right. So how does the commercials work for the end user?
So right now we charge per contract, whether it's on a pay-as-you-go or monthly basis. Really, we want it to be cost effective and easy. But where we see the business model evolving in the future is maybe charging a subscription for the analytics that you get from your contract, because the more contracts you have, the more insight you have. And we're also now in a position where we can start to offer services to our customers based on their contract. So for example, if you're an employer, you would need a pension provider, insurance provider. These are all services which are connected to the contracts that you're creating on Legislate, and that we'll be able to quote you. And same in property, we want to offer insurance to landlords and tenants, and we'll be able to do all of that because we have access to that data. That's not something we're doing currently, but I feel like if we are able to make a viable business model out of those services, then we might not even need to charge per contract.
Wow, brilliant. So in the subscription model, if I pay per month, is it limited to number of contracts, or is just unlimited contracts per month?
Yeah, so the subscription will give you a set amount of contracts you can create within that month. But again, it's not just a contract, it's also the e-signature. So it's all included.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a lovely model. So I guess your target audience is small businesses, entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so we work with a diverse range of clients, startups, entrepreneurs who literally have just incorporated and are hiring their first employee. But we also work with more mature businesses that might have 50 employees. There's really a wide range. So employment is 50% of our client base. The other half is in property. So we work a lot with landlords and letting agents. And again, these are businesses and people that might have one property or a room to rent, and there might also be businesses with hundreds of properties. So we really cover the full spectrum.
Fantastic. And how do you reach out to your audience? What is, the way to market or marketing strategy?
Yeah, so as a startup, you have to try everything, which is what we have done.
Sure.
Or at least, we've at least explored everything. I wouldn't say we've tried everything 100% or really, explored everything 100%. But our most successful channel right now has been search engine optimization, because again, if you don't want to use a lawyer, you're probably going to try and search for a solution online. So we have a lot of content which explains various topics which are related to contracts, whether that's before, within the contract, or after signing the contract. So we've really built a lot of content on our blog to really help educate the market, and that seems to be working so far.
So in your SEO strategy, do you also give some free templates which you think are need of every business, such as, for example, employment offer letter,
Yeah. So right now we don't really give anything for free. It's something we might review in the future, but in terms of our content, it'll be, for example, what are the key clauses that you need in an employment contract, or what are the specific clauses that you need when you're hiring a software developer, or when you're hiring a marketing director, etc. So we do provide that information for free, and it is very useful. But when it comes to the actual contracts themselves, there's a fee to unlock them.
All right. Okay. Interesting. So you would have people who have certain needs, and they will subscribe for a shorter period, and they may not need your service going forward. So do you see that you will have to constantly get to the new customers, and do you see that repeat customers, of course there will be some customers who would be repeat customers because they will keep having newer contracts to draw, but do you see the larger portion would be always the new customers?
So the thing about contracts is you often create them without realizing you are creating them. Even a small business with 5 or 10 employees will probably generate maybe 200 to 500 contracts a year. If you factor in not just the employment contract, but also maybe the staff handbook, the policies that the company needs. So we offer obviously the core agreements, but we also offer policies, letters. So you have access to the whole lot. But you're right, for some of the smaller customers, they might be creating 4 contracts a year. And we definitely do have some of those customers. But what we've noticed so far is that they do come back, when they need to create a contract. First of all, because it's a great price and it's very cost effective. Second of all, because it's very easy to create contracts on Legislate. But in this whole time that they've not been using Legislate, their data has remained on the platform because they have an account with us. And when they create their second contract, the first contract might have taken them, 5 minutes to create because they needed to answer all those questions. But the second contract took 30 seconds because they were able to reuse the data, but also, then adapt to their specific situation, and then have everything all in one place, which I'd say aside from the fact of creating contracts, is also useful for compliance purposes. Because the thing about contracts is you need to, first of all, in most cases, prove that they occurred, whether that's to, for tax purposes or whatever purposes. It could even be, for example, gender pay gap reporting. So we really believe that there is value in just using Legislate as a way of storing your contracts, not only just for, even if you're not creating contracts, because you'll have access to the data at any time and you can then automate your compliance.
Brilliant. So what has been your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenges have evolved. Now we're in our third year. I'd say at the beginning it was hiring, because when there isn't much of a product or much of a track record, it's always very difficult to convince new people to join. So that was the first challenge. But I think the second challenge, and I'd say that will always be a challenge, even though we are seeing some positive results, is all around go-to-market and acquiring customers. So those have been the challenges.
Okay, well, good luck for that.
Thank
And
you.
what are your expansion plans? How do you see yourself growing from here?
Yeah, so we're a team of 12. We are getting good customer traction right now, and we have a clear path of growing organically, but we do have a number of partnerships that are going to kick in over the next couple of months, which will really help scale our reach. The publicly announced partnership is with a large company formation agent, which will help us, reach those entrepreneurs as they incorporate, and therefore, offer contracts to them then, and that should really help. But we've also released a public API version of our platform so that other software platforms that might, require a contract as part of their workflows, so that they can start to offer that contract via Legislate, via the API. So we're in a very exciting position. Things will definitely pick up over the next couple of months, and that's when we'll probably start to grow the team at a higher rate, because we'll need to just keep up with demand.
Absolutely. Well, hi there. I just wanted to share with you all why London School of Digital Business is doing this Great People interview series. Well, for the last few years, small and medium businesses have been facing lots of challenges. Individuals have been wondering what's going to happen to their careers because of these emerging trends and technologies, artificial intelligence, VR, AR. What's going to happen? It feels as if the world is changing. And then COVID hit, and there is a lot of depression in the minds of people. So we thought we need to bring in some positivity, bring in some motivation and inspiration. And it's all good to know these stories of, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. But we wanted to talk about the extraordinary stories of the people that you get to see in the ordinary world. They are no way ordinary people. They are great people, but they are the ones you can relate to. Hence, we thought this is something that we want to bring in to increase the chances of success for many, motivate them, give them the insights. And I'm so happy to share that every leader has shared completely unique and different insights, because their situations have been different. Somebody was alone, and we know that entrepreneurs are alone at the top and how it feels, and they fought their challenges. Somebody had partnership, business partners, and somebody could not survive the business partnership, so they had to rebuild themselves. Somebody thought, well, I could have done this differently if I was to go back in time. So every insight is so unique. I must thank all the people who shared their journeys, And I'm sure this will help you all succeed in life, increase the chances of your success, as well as reach there faster, and of course, achieve happiness in life. Thank you for listening. Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of the first section of the interview. And let me move on to some lighter questions. Well, tell us, what you do over the weekend. What are your hobbies? What you're passionate about?
Yeah, so I guess as a founder, it's very difficult to switch off. So I'll constantly, be monitoring this business, whether that's through the various tools that we use to track the activity of the app. Maybe there's a bug on the app over the weekend, and we are a 24/7 business, so I think it's something that I'll always keep an eye on. But I guess I do enjoy playing tennis when the weather's nice, and I guess I know it's work related, but I do find SEO very interesting. So I always try to catch up over the weekend on the latest strategies or tricks that we can try and implement.
Oh, wow. So in your organization, are you the SEO man, or you do that as an add-on because you like it?
I mean, we obviously have a team, but I definitely do like to get my hands dirty with SEO.
Oh, brilliant. Well, tell us more about your family.
Yeah. So I've grown up a bit all over the place by following my family. Norway, Qatar, Indonesia, Nigeria, and I'm half French, so then I studied in France, but my parents are now in Singapore, so I guess I don't see them much, but over the summer they tend to come over, and then I'll see them then.
Oh, wow. And where you enjoy your holidays?
So since starting Legislate, I haven't really taken many holidays. So and then I also started Legislate during lockdown. So I guess it's just been holidays in the UK.
Yeah, sure. For many of us, that was the case. Now, coming to the last and most important part of the interview, tell us what's your vision.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're trying to make contracts easy for businesses. Right now, we're really, helping the small business, but in the future, we want to help the bigger businesses, the enterprise companies, because at the end of the day, they have the most amount of contracts, and they know the least about their contracts. So what we want to do is we want to, improve and help scale our platform so that it meets their requirements. And as on our way to getting there, we want to also kind of expand our integrations, because one thing we've realized is that a lot of customers, they will have tools that they interact with, whether it's a CRM, it might be a spreadsheet, it might be, I don't know what, something else. And a contract is part of that workflow. And even if they're using Legislate to create that contract then needs to go somewhere, or the data needs to be sent somewhere. And so really what we're trying to do is we're trying to open contracts so that that data can be easily shared via APIs. And I feel like once you can do that, then not only do you offer a much better user experience, but you can also start to think about contracting use cases that as a business you might not even have considered, because it would just be too much of an administrative hurdle to do. So for example, at Legislate, we've been hiring a lot recently, making the most of the summer to attract interns, and I'd say we were able to make those decisions in a very agile way thanks to us using Legislate. And I feel like I know CEOs at other companies where they have to, go through a 1 month process to hire an intern. And if you remove that admin, remove that friction, then instead of hiring 1 intern, you can hire 10 interns over the same period of time, for example. And if you can do that, then you can really unlock a whole lot of opportunity, which just isn't possible right now. So that's what excites me.
Yeah, brilliant. And who inspires you and why?
Yeah, so I'm always inspired by founders who are maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of me and Legislate. There aren't any that come to mind right now. Or maybe there are. Maybe the CEO of Mind Foundry, the company I used to work at, he inspires me because they're definitely a couple of steps ahead of us. They're a team of 60 now, and I think they'll grow to 100 by the end of the year. And I'd say that the key thing that I've learned from Brian, the CEO, is that you always need to kind of take any piece of adversity as a positive, and an opportunity to actually move forward, maybe in a different direction that you originally planned, but it's still a direction that is viable for you personally and as a business. So I'd say that, and any founder who's ahead, because it's as I'm learning, it's very difficult to be a founder, and there are many ways of being a founder as well. So
yeah, definitely. So thank you so much for your time, and we had an exciting interview today with a very different perspective altogether to the business. And I'm sure lots of people who are listening to this interview would be feeling that, okay, well, legal is a side I didn't, take care enough, and it's probably because, I find lawyers and legal stuff to be either expensive or not easily accessible. And you have done it with Legislate. So I'm sure, it's a great takeaway for all the people who are viewing this. Well, thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Sachin. And if anyone wants to create lawyer-approved contracts on their legal budget, they know where to find us.
Definitely. Okay. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye-bye.